into that for us. So, you know, I want to introduce Tracy a bit here. So it's really my pleasure to introduce her. She is a master black belt and consultant, co-author of the book, The Problem Solver's Toolkit, and co-founder of the Just in Time Cafe and Podcast, chair of the SoCal Lean Network, board member for AME West Region, UC San Diego instructor for the Lean Six Sigma Leadership course and the Green Belt course. So just overall, she's a process improvement zealot, and for 25 years has advised companies and done a variety of fantastic work. I lost my notes. Where'd they go?
Oh, no.
Yeah, things happened, and here they're back. So technical difficulties are all on my end, not for any of you. But so you've been advising companies on cultural change, leadership development, customer experience, strategic alignment, and lean process improvement. And for 20 years, you've been consulting in the process improvement industry, right? So you've trained over 3,500 people. We're really jumping that number up for you here today, mentored over 1,500, and you've helped coach folks through projects with results that changed, range between $20,000 and $8 million in savings. So her expertise definitely runs the gamut, from facilitating leadership retreats and strategic planning with top executives, all the way to process walks, Kaizen events, and coaching problem solvers. So, you know, Tracy really teaches process improvement in every gamut, in every area of her life, and specifically at UC San Diego. She's the lead instructor for the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and the Six Sigma Leadership course. So we're definitely excited to have you here today, Tracy. And just for fun, Tracy created a fantastic parody song from Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back and converting that into Miss Fix-a-Lot's Baby Got Tools. So she wrote all the lyrics, specifically about lean and process improvement, and also starting the video by being every character. So that's sort of speaking to my Weird Al heart. And we're going to be able to check out her snippet of her music video. And I believe we're also going to drop in the link to that YouTube video directly for anyone who's able to access YouTube on a state computer. And so you can check that out later. But, you know, without further ado, Tracy, thank you for being here. Thanks for running along with my very long intro, and take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Samantha. Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here again, presenting at the Results Washington Lean Conference again. I attended the first 7 live Lean Washington conferences. I took a break over a few years, and, you know, COVID, all that stuff, but I'm really happy to be back. And I'm really happy to see that continuous improvement is as strong as ever in Washington, as well as in government. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining. That's all we have time for now. So I'm going to leave. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was a great intro. So thank you so much, Samantha. So my talk today is about joyful journeys, unleashing the power of joy in continuous improvement. And I'm going to talk about joy, why it's important, what brings me joy, and I'm going to discuss some companies that have made joy a priority in their organizations and being mindful and purposeful about bringing joy in the workplace. So some companies actually say joy is the priority. People being happy is the priority above profits and everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, let's see here. Let me just adjust this really quickly. Thank you. It's kind of in the way. Okay. So thank you for the parody, talking about my video. I just want to say that I did write and produce that parody song and video because I really wanted to bring more joy to the continuous improvement community in general. And it is a parody of the song Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. And I rewrote all the lyrics for continuous improvement, and I changed the title to Baby Got Tools by Miss Fix-a-Lot. And I also produced the video, and I'm every character in the video. I didn't know I could do that. So this is a picture of Miss Fix-A-Lot from the parody music video. Actually, I don't actually fix anything. I just help others fix things, just because that's really my specialty, not coming in and fixing it for people, but helping people learn to fix things, really. So I'm going to share a short snippet of the video in case you haven't seen it. It's not the whole video. And again, as Samantha said, we are going to give you the link to the full video shortly. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that on. All right, you guys ready? And go.
Oh my God, girlfriend, look at that line. It is so long. It's just so flat. I like lean tools and I cannot lie. My sensei won't deny. A poor process with a ton of waste and a problem in your face, you get sprung. Baby got tools.
I hope you enjoyed that. I did. And it always makes me happy to do that video and share it. Oops. Let me go ahead and go. Okay, so I want to also share that it's not every day that a master black belt continuous improvement coach writes and produces a Lean Six Sigma music video. And why did I do it? Mostly because, process improvement isn't always easy. It involves change, and we know how change can be sometimes unwelcome and hard. And it's not just about altering a process. It involves changing habits, which is even tougher. Process workers have to change, problem solvers, and most importantly, leaders have to adapt their behaviors and habits. And that's not easy. And so I really enjoy continuous improvement, but let's face it, sometimes it feels harder than it should be. A team may run into major roadblocks or experience resistance from people who don't want to change. And it can feel like a slog sometimes. So every time I worked on the lyrics to this song, it put a smile on my face. I was entertained. It felt like working on a fun puzzle, coming up with the rhyming lyrics and communicating something meaningful and weaving lean tools and concepts to match the beat of the song. So I want this song and this music video to bring joy to everyone involved in continuous improvement. So I hope it adds a little whimsy to your adventures, your continuous improvement adventures. If you've had a hard day or just need a pick-me-up, you've got a lean anthem to sing along to now. You can throw a 30-second lean dance party, and that's one way you can add joy into your work. And so one of the biggest takeaways is bringing joy to the workplace, and I'd love to explore the intersection of joy and process improvement. And so does joy enhance productivity? What do you guys think? I think it does. I mean, isn't life and work so much easier and better when people have and experience joy? Does it elevate employee engagement? And does it help drive organizational success? I would say yes, absolutely 100%. So in our pursuit of efficiency, So in our pursuit of efficiency and productivity, we often forget that work should be more than just meeting goals, metrics, meeting KPIs. Going to work should not be constantly stressful. It shouldn't be a place where people burn out and feel like their tanks are getting continually emptied and yet never gets filled back up. How many of you feel like that sometimes at work? You feel like I'm not being fulfilled at work. And so we don't want that to happen. That's not a sustainable outcome for going to work. We should have a workplace where employees have a sense of excitement, a source of fulfillment, inspiration, purpose, and yes, joy. And they should leave work feeling like their tank is full instead of empty. We shouldn't expect people to empty their tanks at work and not get filled at all until they get home. Because guess what? Sometimes people's lives are stressful and work is the escape, right? I had a friend who had small children. She said, I go to work to get a break. So, wouldn't it be cool if you had people coming to work after the weekend saying, thank God it's Monday? Wouldn't that be interesting and fun? Because there's a purpose and they have joy at work. We don't want people feeling like, oh, work. And we want people to feel good about work. And we believe that having joy can be very, very helpful there. So we want to make sure that there's a culture of joy and caring. It's the kind of environment that does foster creativity, collaboration, and innovation. And, it lightens the atmosphere. It helps us to connect with each other. That's something that Amy Lineker was talking about. Connection this morning is something we all absolutely need. The Surgeon General says we need connection. And that's the thing about joy. It has a unique ability to break down barriers, foster a sense of camaraderie, and create a more positive and productive work environment. And when I reflect on joy and what I do, to me, it means being productive and having fun doing it. And so, because, there is a sense of purpose with productivity, but you know what? Let's have a little fun too. So I do find joy in what I do almost every day, and not just, and actually many times a day. And it usually involves connecting and collaborating with people. So for example, I teach at the Greenbelt at UCSD, as Samantha was saying. And when I have groups of students present their projects, I get to see how they've applied the scientific method from my class. And that gives me so much pride. And I just feel happy to be a part of that, being part of their success. That makes me joyful. And when I see students share interesting facts about themselves, I really do enjoy getting to know them. And I see them as a person. I also help UCSD Health, knowing that the improvements they're making is improving the patient experience and truly saving lives. It almost brings me to tears sometimes hearing about some of their projects. So I really like that. I also work with different people in various capacities. So I work with teams to help identify problems, investigate root causes, and I really enjoy helping people and facilitating teams through PDCA. It's productive. I have a lot of joy. Why not have positivity and fun while you're doing the work? And so these are really important things to me. And these are just pictures of things that, people that I've worked with. And I think what's interesting is all of these are people that I've worked with over the years. And, we've got the podcast. We actually just interviewed a few people, Rich Sheridan, and we have lots of people we interview. But these are, what's funny is this is all about connection. And, this is kind of just the support piece about what Amy was saying in terms of social connection. We need social connection. And that's probably one of the biggest things I get out of what brings me joy at work. So what brings you joy at work? Recognizing what brings you joy at work and being intentional about increasing those things will improve your work experience. But here's the thing, joy just doesn't happen. It's a choice. You have to choose joy, and you have to be mindful and purposeful about inserting that and injecting that into your work. So the thing you want to think about is, when are you most joyful at work? You have to recognize, what are the activities that do bring you joy? What are you doing? What are you interacting with certain coworkers? Are you working on something that brings you joy? Is there a creative aspect or a technical aspect? Or are you getting to know the people you work with day in and day out? Are you smiling at work? And what is bringing those smiles to you? And I think it's really important to reflect on this. What's making you have joy at work? So I'm going to be honest and tell you, I went to lunch with someone that was my client, an employee at my client. We were talking about joy. And I asked her, well, what brings you joy? And she kind of stumbled. She really didn't know. She hadn't thought about it. And it wasn't clear to her what did bring her joy. And she had to really think about it. And to me, sometimes we get desensitized to what makes us happy or unhappy. We're so in reactive mode a lot of times that we don't realize we have a choice. in some of these pieces. And part of choosing is knowing what brings you joy. So it's important to really be reflective about what brings you joy and knowing what brings you joy at work and mining for those. So if you have any ideas of what brings you joy at work, I would love to see them in the chat. I know we have, I don't know how many people we have online. I can't see, almost 800 people. Wow, almost 800 people. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to read all of them, but I would love to see what brings you joy at work. And just, do you know what that is? And do you feel like you are actually working towards inserting joy on a daily basis, not just once a year? Somebody go, oh, when I go on vacation, okay, that's once a year. And, you know, we need to have daily joy. And now we're seeing the chat fly through. Problem solving. I love that. Loving to help others and being able to collaborate. Yes, these are all, I think this is what draws us to continuous improvement. There's so many good things about continuous improvement, productivity, working with others, working to solve problems, getting to collaborate with smart people and bringing people together, Rachel said. Thank you so much. So there's lots in there. I'm going to let you read them because we're flying through. Improving processes. Thank you, Annette. I know we have a great time. I love to hear that. Inserting fun is super important. And I'm going to guess that none of you, your examples of joyful experiences don't involve fear. And fear is really the killer of laughter and joy. Fear robs joy from people and the environment. It can kill continuous improvement efforts and the desire to take on a risk or try an experiment. So anytime you feel that people are afraid, we gotta nip that in the bud. We have to make sure that people aren't fearful, because it is very difficult to be joyful and fearful at the same time. Have you guys seen employees be afraid at work or afraid of process improvement even? So to me, this hurts my heart, because I love what I do so much that it hurts my heart when people actually have had a bad experience with continuous improvement, that something not great happened or something that wasn't joyful. And so I just feel like it could be such a better experience. So we want to make sure that people are not afraid. We want to make sure that, like I do a lot of process walks, and often people they don't know what's about to happen. So I'm always trying to minimize fear around that. I don't want people to be afraid. This is not about you. It's not about what you're doing wrong. It's about the pain you have to go through because of the way the process is designed. It's not you. We want to look at the process. And I have to constantly remind people, because it is scary. They're like, who is this girl? What is she about to do? Am I going to get in trouble? And I don't want them to feel that way. So we definitely need joy in process improvement, because like I said, change is hard. And something magical happens when we create an atmosphere that encourages learning, growth, experimentation. Employees feel safe, they challenge the status quo, and they contribute their unique perspectives and ideas. And I see it happen in a meeting. I can see that they're afraid at the beginning, and then by the end, by the first hour, they are in it, right? They're committed to helping, and they're being kind to each other usually too. So some companies have made a commitment to joy. And if you really want to increase joy, you want to do some research. And I've done some of that research for you, and I'm going to share some of it with you. So joy is a commitment to these companies. And I'm going to share 2 examples of companies that have made happiness and joy a priority. Those 2 companies are, one, Menlo Innovations in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So I don't know if any of you have been able to go to Menlo Innovations. But before the pandemic, Elizabeth and I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we toured Menlo Innovations with Jeffrey Leiker and Karen Ross. Is a picture of all of us. Menlo Innovations, if you don't know, is a software company. They design software solutions. Their mission is to end human suffering in the world as it relates to IT. Amen to that. And Jeffrey talks about this organization in his books. But Richard Sheridan is the chief joy officer at Menlo. And he takes his role very seriously. He invites others to join him in the making workplaces matter, as well as developing products and services. But most importantly, let's make this workplace matter. And we interviewed him last week, actually. So if you want to see our podcast, you can listen in on his podcast too. I can share the link later. But he has written 2 books specifically around joy. If you haven't read them, and this is something that you really want to focus on, I would highly recommend buying these books. So one of them is the first book, Chief Joy Officer. He outlines how leaders must think and what they must do to create the kind of aspirational workplace at Menlo. So really, really geared towards leaders and what leaders can do. And his second book offers insight into how he and his co-founder built the structural freedom that they call the Menlonians, what they actually experience and enjoy. So I think the interesting thing is, what do they mean by joy? So can everybody hear me okay? I'm seeing some comments on some people not being able to hear me. Can you hear me, Samantha? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so the thing to think about too is Rich clarifies that joy is not the same as happiness. I mean, you can hear, if you read this book, you can hear that there's struggles. There's human struggles in the stories. And every day, the realities, these are everyday realities that get and have joyful outcomes. So he's not naive about leaders and organizations trying to brave the unknown and putting effort required to build a joyous culture, but it's not always about happiness. And, sometimes having a struggle does bring joy. So it's not about making things easy either. So I think that's the other thing is, just joy doesn't actually mean you're making it easy for everybody, because the fact that we have accomplished, a lot of you wrote in there, what brings you joy? Solve problems. So guess what? We're solving them together, and there's joy in solving problems. It doesn't mean you don't have any problems to solve. But he really does want people to, what he calls, run the experiment with your culture. And there's so many things I could share about Menlo that, but I'm only going to share a few things that really stood out to me that have worked for them. And I'm not going to say these things work for every organization. That's why it's an experiment. You run the experiment culturally, because some of these things are not going to work for some other groups and some other organizations, but they're pretty fun. So one of the things is, when we went there, we saw dogs and we saw kids at work. And I took pictures. These are some of the pictures. So their whole mentality is you bring your whole self to work, problems and all, because everyone is dealing with personal life. And it does affect work. Regardless, it does affect work. We are whole people, and our personal lives are going to affect our work. And it's okay to ask, are you okay? And so that's a big deal. So they have dogs. I don't think cats are allowed, honestly. That would be crazy. But I mean, I didn't ask. I don't think I asked. So they have dogs, they have kids, people hold the babies. I mean, it's great. And so the other thing, this last one is, this is Rich standing in front of the pay structure of every single person. Thanks, Jim. Jim said it's kitty discrimination. Okay, so this is the last picture. This is the pay structure. Everybody's on a Post-it, and it basically is public knowledge, which I know is normal in government, but this is public knowledge of where everybody's paid. And guess how you get a promotion? Peer evaluation. So team members can only advance through peer evaluation. And it's impressively democratic. And there's a rapid rise of some natural leaders and slower progression of others. But it does escape this full-blown forms-driven bureaucracy. And it is driven by a desire for fairness. So guess what? Without all those layers, those meetings and approvals, Menlo's pretty nimble. There's a lot of autonomy at Menlo. There's open dialogue and open communication. Some of you may not like this, but we just did a podcast with him, and they were really wrestling with having people work from home. And he said, this was not done with callous. but we work better together as a team. And so, yes, people are more maybe personally productive at home, but he says we work better together in person. Help arrives without asking for it when we're together. So they made the decision that they really did want people to show up because they felt like as a team, they were better together. The other mantra that I really like about Menlo is when you get mad, when you get furious, get curious, because sometimes what you assume is not the whole story. And I see this happening a lot. People do make a lot of assumptions about people's intent, or, they see something and without clarifying, they get really mad. So his mantra, and he says he does it too. He says when he gets furious, he tries to get curious about what happened. Help me understand. And then let's, I don't want to, ruminate on perceived wrongs. How do we move forward? So guess what? People make mistakes, and sometimes we don't act appropriately right out of the gate. So how do we acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, apologize, make adjustments, and move on? People are not perfect, but recognizing that we're not perfect and saying that we made a mistake, that's part of joy too. They have a very extensive hiring process as well. And I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but what they decided is that the job interview, the standard job interview process really doesn't work because it's just two people in a room lying to each other for 2 hours. So they scrapped that. And they decided that they were going to hire people, and it sort of resembled high-speed dating, but with proctors and evaluations. So they bring about 50 candidates in a group, they pair them up with each other, they assign each other a Menlo observer, and then they give them a problem to solve together. These are people that don't even work there. They give them a problem to solve together with one pencil and one sheet of paper, and then they watch their assigned pairs and ask themselves a series of questions. Would I like to pair with this person? Would I feel supported if I were struggling? Would I be able to support them, and would they listen if I did? Would I learn something from this person, and would they help me grow? So these are questions they're thinking through as they're observing these possible employees. So guess what? It isn't even about skill. It's about kindergarten skills. Can you be respectful to other people? And if you pull the pencil off your partner, you don't get the job. Right? So they are really looking at how you interact with people more so than anything. They actually said skill, it can be learned, but respect and treating people a certain way and caring for people, that is a really important skill they're looking for. And I think, haven't you seen situations where the highest skilled person gets the promotion, but they may not necessarily be the right leader? Does that still happen? Yes. And so we really want to think about who are we putting in these leadership positions? Do they have the skills for the job, or do they have the skills and abilities to motivate others and be an effective leader? Okay, I'm going to share one other one, and that is another company that I got to see in Japan. So Elizabeth and I, she's my partner at the Just in Time Cafe. We went with Katie Anderson to a Japan study tour back in 2019. Great. It's a great tour. I'd highly recommend it if you haven't been to Japan. Katie Anderson wrote the book Leading to Learn, and she takes us on a bunch of places to Japan to really understand the Japanese culture and to understand. We went to a school to watch how children are taught to respect each other. We went to Toyota suppliers. We went to this company called Ina Foods. So this company's main focus is employee happiness. And Toyota sends their managers to Ina Foods to learn about how to be an ideal leader. So even Toyota goes to them for learning. So who are they? Ina Foods is a Japanese company. They're in Nagoya and Tokyo. They develop powdered agar or gelatin products. And their primary product is something called Kanten. It's made from seaweed. And this company has been in existence for over 60 years, and they have slow growth on purpose. Their secret to success is slow growth, really. That's their focus. They don't want to grow too fast because they don't want to have stress for their employees. So the chairman wrote a book called Tree Ring Management. Like a tree, his company has grown steadily for almost for each of its 60 years plus. So we did get a chance to interview the chairman, and there's some really interesting stuff that happens here as well. His name is Hiroshi Tsukokashi, and one of his sons, they don't speak any English, so we had a translator, and we got to ask him some questions. But they have a clear distinction between a successful company and a good company. And he believes that when companies start to put profit as the goal, it leads them astray. And he actually says that profit is like excrement produced by a healthy body. Profit is something that every organization needs to do, but it shouldn't be the sole purpose for a company, and that it's a mistake to make that the priority. So here's a couple things that this company does to make employees happy. He sends them on trips around the world to grow. He actually does pay for his employees every trip. There's a trip a year they get to go on for the last 50 years. He has sponsored travel abroad, not just for recreation, but for education. He sees this as a chance for his people to broaden their perspectives and reflect on other cultures. Wouldn't that be nice? Be like, boss, I'd love to go to Hawaii. He set up 15-minute tea breaks at 10 and 3 every day, and he provides everyone with a snack allowance. He built an art gallery for his people to spend time in and provides another space for employees and local artisans to sell their crafts. And he raises employee motivation in the real sense that they are happier this year than the last year. That is his goal. And again, they also, and this is, I think, an important thing, happiness doesn't mean easy. He urges us not to take it easy. He believes in struggle. The more struggle involved in a job, the greater the sense of accomplishment when it's done. So nothing makes a person happier than being useful to someone and being appreciated for it. And guess what? Employees have lifetime employment. Lifetime. You are becoming part of the family, and they don't fire family. That's their attitude and their belief. And I think what's interesting is when we went to go visit them, we kept asking them, well, how do you know your employees are happy? And we thought it was like a translation issue. We're like, do you guys do employee surveys? Like, what's the results? And what are the scores? And he's like, what are you talking about? He didn't understand. I thought, does he not understand the question? And then I realized, and then he said this, he said, do you do surveys of your family members? Why would you do that? You know they're happy or not. I don't need to do a survey because they're my family. And that was a 100% shift in how you treat people like family at work. So I thought that hit me like a ton of bricks when I was there. And then I'll just say this last thing about, foods. When the employees start at the company, the first thing they are shown at orientation is a 100-year calendar. And it's also hung throughout the company. And he tells everyone that somewhere on here is the date of your death. And the purpose of the calendar is to give employees a visceral sense that your life is limited and that you have to take full advantage of every day to its fullest, because and really, what do you want to achieve in the time that you have left? And he gets shocked looks sometimes. You might expect that. But he says the young don't give much thought to death, which is why they assume they have unlimited time left. And your time here, because it is limited, should definitely be happy and filled with joy. So I talked about two different companies that focus on joy and employee happiness, and they do it very different ways. And that's the thing, is joy is not always similar, it doesn't look similar. So now I want to kind of take these last few moments that I have with you to kind of turn to joy in the workplace. And I'm going to bring up Marie Kondo, who wrote the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And this may not seem like it's related at first, but I promise you it is. So I don't know if any of you know Marie Kondo, but she had a TV show for a while. She sold millions of copies of this book, Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And people have really been drawn to this philosophy about being effective and being mindful and introspective. And Marie Kondo, if you haven't, she basically, it's kind of like 5S workplace cleanup, but in the home. But she calls it the KonMari method. And I see a lot of fans of Marie Kondo. So the KonMari method it's a way to tidy up. You don't do it by location. You don't go from room to room. You start with clothes, then books, then papers. And then finally, your last thing is sentimental items. And she says that, you're really getting rid of stuff that are not important to you. You keep only the things that speak to the heart, and you discard the items that no longer spark joy. And you thank them for their service and you let them go. So when you're discarding items, what is the one question she wants you to ask about the item? For those of you that have done it, what's the one question that I'm looking for it on the chat right now? Does it bring you joy? Does it spark joy? That's exactly it. And so guess what? The reason why she does this in this order is because people don't realize what brings them joy. They have to get used to asking, does this piece of clothing give me joy? And at first, people don't know. They don't know. So you start with clothing to find the feeling. You got to find the feeling, and you have to figure out what sparks joy. Does it make you feel like this picture? Do I feel happy, warm and fuzzy when I hold it? Or do I feel unfulfilled, blah, or just nothing? So getting in touch with joy is critical. And that's the piece I really want to focus on for work. What brings you this feeling at work? What sparks joy for you? It's time to try to apply this at work as much as you can. Now, I realize you can't remove people that don't bring you joy. But you have to first we tend to be desensitized to what makes us happy, especially at work, because we feel like we have to put up with things. But really focusing in what gives us joy and the pursuit of surrounding ourselves with those things is very purposeful. And like I said, we can't always remove things that don't bring us joy, but sometimes we can alter our situation. So, and then the other thing is, so first you want to say, can you remove anything that doesn't spark joy? And sometimes we realize that we're like a frog that's put in water. And now the water's boiling and we don't realize what is happening. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to admit to these 800 people online, I'm in my 50s now, and I've been on a personal mission to remove things that don't bring me joy. Toxic people that I've allowed in my life, toxic environments. I'm recognizing that I put up with some things that I don't need to. And I don't know what it is about being in your 50s that makes you really reflect on that. And so we can have that same mindful exercise for work too. And like I said, we may not be able to remove all those things that spark joy, but we may be able to reduce the exposure or change the situation so that it's more joyful. Getting back in touch with what brings you joy at work is the first step to injecting more joy. Being joyful is a choice. You have to choose joy. And then you're proactive in inserting joy. So here's some ways that you can insert joy in continuous improvement. So I have a colleague, Katie Lebeds. I don't know if you know her. She's great. She's a colleague of mine. She has a great book out. It's called How to Improve Absolutely Every Process, Kaizen for Process Improvement and Fun. And she labels Kaizen events as Kaizen parties. And she celebrates the success of making change for the better. Whenever I work with others, I am always mindful of bringing joy in the following forms: celebration, gratitude. Oh, hold on a second. I'm sorry, I missed it. So celebration, gratitude, recognition for the little wins and big wins, and even the behaviors associated with creating a positive environment. So when people do the right things or they do the right behaviors, I'm always acknowledging and promoting that. Like, you just helped me create a safe environment here. You were vulnerable, and that was really important as a leader, because if you're not vulnerable, others won't be vulnerable either. So these are some of the things that I'm constantly saying in terms of joy and comfort and safety. Connection. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you, when I first started early in my career in my 30s, I didn't like warm-ups and icebreakers. I thought it was a waste of time. I thought, oh, people just want to get the work done. But now that I read the studies that shows that it does increase productivity and connection, two things that are important, I started doing them. And now I will never not do these things, because I have seen how it changes the dynamic and it helps us work better together as humans. When you just found out that you have the same dog as the person that you didn't like at work, that creates some sort of connection. So really important, and it makes a huge difference. And they don't take very much time at all. So I would highly suggest doing some of these things. So these are just some of the little things that I do that you want to think about in terms of inserting joy. When the going gets tough, I do remind people of the bigger purpose of continuous improvement too. It's not here just to improve a process. You're here to reduce pain. You're here to enhance life and work by making it easier. So here's the question that I want you to think about. And that is, what strategies or practices can you adopt to celebrate small victories and achievements along the process improvement journey? So I want you to think about that. You're not going to have time to do it right now, but what can you do? What can you do to insert some of these practices to celebrate? That is definitely really important. And this is going to be your first call to action to answer this question. And if you want to involve others, if needed, that's important. But here's something you definitely want to remember. People need joy quite as much as clothing. Some of us need it far more. It's a basic human need. And we want to think more proactively about creating joy in our work and in our lives and overall. And I see lots of ideas happening in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing those, because I think the more ideas you have, the better. I'm going to give you a few more calls to action. First, you want to answer that question. Secondly, you want to think about what activities bring you joy. What interactions, what people bring you joy. Recognize what brings you joy. Remove or reduce things, if possible, that don't bring you joy. And I have a little present for all of you. And that is, you get free posters from Miss Fix-a-Lot. We have two for you. One is Bust Mess with 5S. And it has 5S on the back and a picture of Miss Fix-a-Lot on the front. And Crush Waste. It's got all the waste there, and it's got the 8 wastes on the back. And these are free for you. Hopefully they help you spread some joy. You can go to TracyORourke.com, TracyORourke.com to download them. I will put those in the link as well. And I think you guys already put in the chat the link to the Baby Got Tools. So I'm going to just put this in the chat right now. And that is a couple of links. One is for the posters, one is for the music video, and one is for the podcast with Rich Sheridan. And I just want to say that I love you all from the bottom of my heart. I love continuous improvement. I'm so happy to be on this journey with all of you. And as we wrap up our reflective journey, let's carry these lessons with us. Let's embrace the power of laughter, lean tools, effective leadership that create really awesome places to work, and that they're enjoyable and fulfilling. So you play a vital role in that. And thanks for joining me on this fun-filled adventure. Let's go out there with a smile on our faces and lean tools in hand and make a positive difference. I know there's just so much positivity right now. Wish I could give you all a hug, but I'm virtual, so it's an e-hug. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Tracy. This was, as you promised, joyful, positive, and very, very engaging, right? We've got a lot of folks coming up in the Q&A and the chat. And so we do have just a couple of minutes, so we're not going to be able to hit all of the questions, but we did get a quick one here. So Cassidy was asking, could you remind us of the title of the Ina Foods book?
Oh, it's called Tree Ring Management, like tree, TREE, ring management. I'm going to be honest and tell you that I don't know if it's available anymore. I checked it a few months ago and I didn't see it for sale. So those are coveted copies. If you know anybody that has one, you should borrow it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And I think there's a common theme here in several of the questions. So, in state government where there's a limit to resources and just still kind of finding our way a lot of the time in moving virtually, it's hard to fill our tanks without the budget for morale events. And, I appreciate you referencing Marie Kondo, her book, specifically, she has one specifically about cleaning up your work life, right? And one of those elements is about figuring out how your teams and your meetings can serve as a space for joy. So do you have like a favorite way to help inject joy into a team to build morale and recognize?
So I do warm-ups and icebreakers in particular. I pick ones, not necessarily games. I pick ones that you are always going to learn something about someone you work with. So my first one, if I don't know the group or if it's a new group, I always start with what's an interesting personal fact that you're okay with sharing and other people are okay with hearing. And then you get to hear like what they could go anywhere with that. And I find that people make laugh, they learn things. And then sometimes I ask them just like simple questions just to go around because sometimes you only have 5 minutes. And I say, like, my favorite one that I'm using right now is what's your superpower and what's your kryptonite? Like, what are you really, really, really good at? You don't even have to think. And what are you, well, not so great at? And people appreciate hearing both. So, and it could be I ask them, it doesn't have to be work related. You could do it at home. So I always ask questions to help people get to know each other better because it's that human connection element that really helps people.
Yeah, I love that. And so folks can choose to share a workplace strength. They can choose and opt into sharing more personally if they feel safe doing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We did get another question. Folks are so curious about the books that you've shared. So wondering if you can give the name again of the Kaizen Parties book.
Yes.
That was a long title. I tried to make note.
Yes. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now. Her name is Katie Lebeds. And it's basically, you can improve absolutely every process.
Love it.
Absolutely every process. I'll put that in. So that's a great one too. And I will say, I know that it's hard. You guys are in government, but you don't need to spend money to have fun. You don't need to spend money to have joy. It could be as simple as telling a joke. It could be as simple as telling a story. It doesn't have to, joy does not equate to money. And I think we all know that. I think it's easier to have money to spend to do something, but I definitely don't see it as a barrier. And yes, I have written a book. Lori asked me, I have written the Problem Solvers Toolkit. And right now it is available, I think, in limited resources, but we are redesigning it. And so it's going to be available early next year. We're going to have more fun stuff in it next year as well. And yes, I am coming out with a new music video with a new song too.
Okay, that's great. We did get a couple comments about that, so that is helpful to know. So again, we're almost on time, but I think there's two similarly connected questions. So one person asked, how do you deal with staff's fear when the fear that they're dealing with is maybe past workplace trauma versus current reality? And maybe separate, but a similar thread. How did Menlo address biases that can come up when considering cultural fit? So whether that's in an interview perspective or with team members that are already there, right? Sometimes our past workplace traumas can definitely reflect in the way we present at work.
Absolutely. And there's been lots of government organizations where you're dealing with employees that have worked there 30 years. So, I'm going to just say there's the power of stories. And their stories are what keeps the tribe alive, if you will. But if you have traumatic stories that are being told over and over again, you need to find a new story to replace it. And that's part of the healing, actually. So don't tell the same traumatic story over and over. Find a way to replace those stories so people have a better experience. And I'm actually working with the Navy right now. And trust me, when I got there, nobody wanted to talk to me about process improvement because of their trauma with it. And we've created new paths and new pathways and new thinking around it. And it's helping a lot. And so, so I think that's the shortest answer I can give you that you want to think through is people believe the stories they're telling themselves, and there is truth to that. And we want to acknowledge and respect that. Yet we also have to acknowledge that we have to have new stories.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. We value our time with you, and, thank you for sharing the